It's GT time, and IMS brings you a very interesting topic on finance in association with Goa Institute of Management, Jim, on a topic buy now, pay later, the BNPL schemes that we talk about. So we're just trying to understand here that whether it's a convenience or a trap for Indian middle class, these schemes or these payment models seem to grow a lot during COVID and lockdown, wherein physical cash was an issue, physical transactions were an issue. So that's how these schemes grew. So now let us understand the session takeaways for this session, the concept of buy now, pay later schemes and how they work, the potential benefits and drawbacks of using the BNPL schemes, the impact on credit scores, and the importance of buying off balance in full on time, and financial responsible behavior, budgeting, and long-term financial goals. And to take us through this topic, we have with us Dr. Avinash Ghaike. He's working as an associate professor in the area of finance and accounting. He holds a PhD from IIT Bombay, post-graduation in finance and systems from XLRI Jamshedpur, and a CFA chartered accountant from CFA Institute, USA. Dr. Avinash has over 18 years of experience spanning in investment research, information technology, entrepreneurship, and academics. He's associated with the sell side equity research terms at Goldman Sachs, Lehman Brothers, Nomura, covering various sectors like oil and gas, alternate energy, pharma across US, Europe, and India. So, sir is going to take us through this very interesting topic, and I would like to wish all of you a good luck and enjoy the topic. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, thank you. So it feels good that almost after 18 years, I'm on the other side of the table, because as a former student of IMS, I did my CAT coaching with IMS, and I remember we had a similar session where we were trained for GDs and PI there. So it feels good that after 18 years, I'm on the other side. Great. So with that quick thing, let me just share my screen out here. So when we talk about this buy now, pay later schemes, right? And BNPL has been it's I would say in vogue, especially with the millennials, right? And I'm sure a lot of you probably are already using these this mode of payment, or at least aware that there is this mode of payment available. Now, what we need to understand in the context is it something that's new, right? As an agreed, the fintech that have come up in the last couple of years seem to talk about them a lot, but principally as a product, is this product something which is new altogether, or is it something which is the same old, as we say, an old wine in a new bottle, right? So let's try to demystify that aspect out here. So when I talk of BNPL, how exactly does BNPL work, right? So so let me just pose this question to you. So if and you can chat, put that in the chat window out there. When you say you are trying to buy something through the BNPL route or through the BNPL channel, what exactly are you doing? Is it something? Can someone put it in the chat window? What exactly does that mean if you are buying something via BNPL? It's a credit transaction. Okay. Someone says buying on credit, tie up with a brand. Okay. A short-term loan. Yes. I think someone just mentioned it's a short-term loan. So I think more than a simple loan, more than a simple thing that the branding, all these are come secondary. The most important thing that comes by in which makes BNPL slightly different from a typical loan that you have is it's a short-term loan that is given out, right? And when I say it's a short-term loan, it could be as short as maybe few days, right? Or it could be spread over a couple of months, wherein you are required to kind of pay that over some time, right? So if you ask me, the reason I call it an old wine, a new bottle, is it's a simple case of giving you a short-term loan, right? So essentially in a BNPL, you get an option. If you are someone who goes to a e-commerce website and you like something very well there, and you say, I would want to buy this, as you proceed towards your final stages, where you would hit the payment page, you're going to see options, one of the options coming as BNPL. So essentially, when the loan is given out, the financer, in this case, it could be maybe call it a Bajaj Finance, or it could be a Lazy Pay, it could be a Slice, any of these brands which are out there, which says that, fine, you like this, you go ahead, you will get your product. For that, you need not pay the entire amount. You pay maybe a small 10-20% upfront payment, and the remaining amount you can pay as uh, pay over time, maybe under 3 months, 6 months time. And we as in the financier is going to pay off the seller immediately. Right now, as we said, you can pay the financing partner at a later point of time. Now, either that could be a lump sum amount. Maybe you say that the financer might tell you that, okay, you right now, you pay us maybe a 20% upfront, right? And the remaining 80% that you have, you say, okay, you pay us after 3 months. And for 3 months, we're not going to charge you. If you're lucky, you can get a deal like that. Or they could say, okay, in the next 4 months, every month, you pay me 20% amount. And for that, I'm not going to charge you anything. Right? Now, on the looks of it, if I have to buy something worth 20,000 or 20K worth, I am only going to shell out 4K today. And the remaining 16K, I have the option to defer it over the next 4 months by paying 4K every month. Right? Now, it looks very enticing. Right? So what could go wrong here? So if you ask me, like any product, right, and you are going to face this in any kind of GD, right? You are going to be put to different situations, different things, different products, different services. There are always some good things and bad things. As long as you are able to appreciate the good things and the bad things, and then plan your purchase accordingly, it's a wonderful product. What I mean is, in the example that I just mentioned to you, if you are going to have an option of paying the 16,000 in 4 installments of 4K each over the next 4 months, and if you don't have to pay any interest for that purpose, it's an amazing thing, right? But that requires the discipline that you need to have. When I say discipline, you have to ensure that you make these 4 payments of 4,000 exactly on or before the date, the deadline that's been given to you. Right. So as long as you have that discipline, it's an amazing product. Right. Which, if you ask me, you may be aware that in a credit card, we get a similar thing, right? In a credit card also, and which BNPL is in a lot of forums, you would see this comparison of a credit card versus a BNPL. Right? A credit card also gives you an option of buying things immediately, and then it will give you a time period of, let's say, a month or so, or maximum 45 days, by which you'll have to pay that money, right? So in that sense, you are actually enjoying a no credit, right? Or I call it no interest period, right? So this no interest period that you have is the most amazing thing you can possibly have. Right? So the discipline that we're talking of could be in the context of, one, the discipline that you pay on time, right? Second, as I can see here, what Shubham has mentioned, it's also the discipline that you don't end up doing more and more of the similar kind of purchases. That now that you only had to pay 4K to buy this particular thing worth 20K, you might be enticed to buy more of this going forward, right? So the discipline has to come in multiple ways, right? So if you are a disciplined individual, a product like this works amazingly well for you. So one, as Abhishek mentions, the companies pay them. And the question is, why is the company paying them? Like, this seems a bit odd. You have a scenario where you want to buy something from a seller, maybe an Amazon, and a financier like a Slice comes and says, I'll pay on your behalf, and I'll also give you interest-free period. And the Amazon is going to pay a Slice. It isn't in the world, there are no free lunches. And everything here seems to be like free lunches. Absolutely. As I can see, some of you are mentioning out here. One thing is the commission. The sellers are hoping that by providing options like a BNPL, more people are going to come to the website, possibly more sales. So whatever profit they're going to earn in the process, a part of the profit they are ready to share with the financer, right? So if you see, the BNPL players actually have two sources of income, right? And when I say two sources, one source obviously is the merchant, right? Or the seller in some sense. Now, if you see, the more formal term for that is the merchant discount rate, right? So you may come across this term frequently used. It is called as the MDR, right? Which essentially boils down to the commission. So if you see MDR in general, the way MDR charges work is often when you have any kind of electronic transaction, let's say a credit card or a debit card and so on and so forth, the network providers like the Visa, MasterCard, who provide these payment services, the banks, the interchange banks, all of these are going to charge some money. Now, instead of charging the customer, they'll charge this to the merchant, right? So the merchant pays a commission to these banks, right, which provide the credit card, which in turn also provide us to the payment providers like Visa and MasterCard and Maestro and so on. So this MDR charge, if you see, is the income of these banks. So on similar lines, what happens is when the BNPL player comes in, the BNPL player also charges a commission, call it a commission, or you can also call it an MDR, similar to the MDR. Now, the difference is because this commission which the BNPL player is charging is not just for the transaction processing, it's also for the fact, as someone rightly mentioned in the chat window, they are also going to funnel sales or funnel customers to this website. Yes, so possibly they'll give them offers, do some kind of advertising on the behalf of these partners, and possibly give them entice them by saying that, okay, for buying something for 20K, you only need to shell out 4K right away, right? And if you see, especially if you look at the middle class, right, or if you look at the Indian population in general and even in the world, the biggest issue people have is access to money, right? A large part of the population is wanting access to credit, access to money, which they don't get easily. Wherein, and that's exactly the pain point that BNPL players try to plug, right, or address in some sense. That a large chunk of the population which do not have access to formal credit, right? A lot of the millennials like you possibly may not have a credit history, so they may not get credit cards easily. They may not, possibly your parents may be having a strict discipline, they are controlling the finances that you are having, right? So when you go through a e-commerce website and you see an option, the approval process for going through a BNPL channel is much quicker, much faster, right? So as compared to a credit card, less number of checks are done, right? So that at one level could be a drawback, or at the other level, it could also be the ease and the convenience that you get in case of the BNPL channel, right? So This MDR rate that is charged is the one which gives money to these BNPL players. And this MDR rate, if you see, typically in case of credit cards, this could be in the range of 2 to 3%. In case of the BNPL players, this could go 3 to 4 times, so maybe 7 to 8% is also possible. That's the kind of commissions that they are going to earn through this channel. Right? So that's one element of the commission or the earnings for the players. And the second one, obviously, are customers like you and me, who possibly will use this BNPL, right? So we said all this while that there's no charge to us, right? So what kind of charges are these BNPL players going to charge us? How are they going to earn from people like from you or me, from the customers? Absolutely right, Lakshmi. So things get into play only when we do a default, right? So moment we have a default, there will be the so-called late charges, right? And there is the interest charge. So, as I said, from the customers, these two charges. So remember in that example, coming back to the example of the 20K one where you were asked to pay 4K every month for 4 months. Now, in that case, the provider might say, by the 10th of every month, you are supposed to give this 4K. Now, if in a particular month, unfortunately, if you do not have a way to pay this back, you are late, and hence a flat late charge will be applied, right? Plus, for the delay, for whatever is the delay, you will be charged an interest, and that interest could be at 2 or 3% per month, right? So from that point of view, these will kick in only if you are late. Now, right, the only benefit which you see here, right, and I'm again coming back and comparing with credit cards, is as compared to credit card, BNPL is more humane, if I can call it. What I mean by humane is, if you had bought something 20K through a credit card, right, and had you defaulted and not paid by the specific month completely, then you will be charged interest on the entire 20K. Whereas in case of BNPL, you delayed paying only the 4K, so only on the 4K will be charged the interest. Right. So in that sense, I say BNPL is slightly humane than the credit card. Right. So good and bad of BNPL, if you ask me, I think most of you already probably are aware of it. So the biggest benefit are the fact that it gives you instant access to credit, right? Because there could be situations where you could be in a situation where you want to do something, but there's a cash crunch, right? Obviously, in most of the cases, we'll possibly reach out to our friends, but sometimes if that is not possible, now you have more formal channels, not as formal as banks, but at least slightly formal than your friends and other people, which gives you an option to get credit, right? It improves affordability. So when I say affordability, today you may not be able to buy, but if you are in a job where you know that for the next at least for next 1 year, you're definitely going to work here and not going to move out the job, and that's going to give you a stability. So from that point of view, say, okay, I want to buy something worth 1 lakh. I don't have 1 lakh right away, but I am sure that over the next 1 year, as I get my salary, I should be able to pay that 1 lakh, right? So in that sense, it improves affordability for you. It offers a lot of convenience. As I mentioned, maybe if you're able to get a good deal, get a good cashback from the BNPL channel, it gives you convenience also, and also gives you a good discount. Drawbacks, well, if you're not disciplined, then it's a problem. But the more, if you ask me, the more important thing is this. Because what happens is, remember, you are, let's say this is you, this is the seller, and this is your BNPL player, right? Now, if you have, once you go ahead and buy a product, right? The BNPL player has paid this off, and now he is going to interact with you for doing this, right? And you also have paid 20% upfront, right? Now this 20% upfront was possibly paid to this, and the BNPL guy has paid entirely amount, or you have paid. It's normally the BNPL will pay entirely, and BNPL 20% has been taken. 20% upfront has been taken by the BNPL guy. Now, if you return the product, you would agree that if you return the product, you need to get the entire money back. And to get this 20% back from the BNPL player, and also to get the entire transaction reversed, can get really messy for you. And in the e-commerce world, returning products is a fairly common thing. And I'm sure you as millennials would be doing a lot of it, right? So if you are very sure you are not going to get into this cycle of returning things, or if you know that there are certain products where there's a possibility that you might return, I would strongly urge you not to go for a BNPL channel. Only if you are fairly sure that you're not going to return it, BNPL would make sense. And this is more, I can tell you, on paper, yes, there are ways and means to do it, but in reality, it's quite messy to get it back, right? So from that point of view, taking care of refunds is a big problem with case of BNPL. If you end up missing payments, it's going to cost you. So as we discussed, it could be 2 to 3% per month. And if you miss payments, your credit scores are going to get affected, right? And remember, we are talking of very small amounts, right? Only with, let's say you buy something worth 10,000 through BNPL channel, and let's say your per month EMI or that repayment was only about 1,000 per month. Now, just because you missed a payment of 1,000, your credit history is going to go bad, which could mean that at a later point of time in your life, when you become 30, 35, you want to buy a house, a bank might say that, so look, you miss payments, your credit score is bad, your credit score is only 750. You might end up getting a loan for, at let's say at 8.3%, someone with a credit score of 800, which would have been possible had you not missed this 1,000, they could get loan of 8.0%. Right? Because remember, we are now going to a stage where gradually we will have more customized pricing of loans. And as more and more credit history is calculated for people, got for people, don't be surprised that another 5-10 years down the line, instead of SBI saying we'll offer 8.3% interest, 8.3 will just be a number, a benchmark number. And depending on each individual, each of us would get a different rate, depending on our credit histories, right? So you don't want to, for a small payment of 100 or 200 or 500,000, want to mess up your credit history. So that's one big drawback that you need to be aware of. So we have been discussing about a lot with credit cards and BNPL, and in the last few years, BNPL has caught up big time. So what do you think? If I compare credit card versus BNPL, how do they stack up? So let's say if I say if there are 10 transactions that happen via BNPL, how many do you think would be happening through credit cards? Any guesses? 6, okay, 10 to 6. So you're saying that more of Veda says there are more of BNPL transactions than credit transactions. Abhijit is saying 2, so 2 of credit and 10 of BNPL. Okay, so you're saying if 10 of BNPL, then 100 of credit cards. Okay, the figure is this. So in the last 4 years, even though we have seen so much of noise around BNPL and so on and so forth, even today, credit cards are much, much higher. Much, much higher. And this data is from one of the Ken articles. Right? And remember, we are talking of only number of transactions. And as I said, if you see in general, the transaction sizes is much lesser. Exactly, it's much lesser. So the amount will go much smaller than that. Right? But the most important thing is, remember, it's small ticket sizes, and essentially it is trying to build the credit history of people who probably do not have a credit card, right? So once you have a credit card, maybe you'll go on a credit card. But if you don't have a credit card, something like the BNPL obviously works for you, And as I mentioned, it's an amazing product. From a product point of view, it's almost similar to a credit card. There are so many things similar to a credit card. Yes, so credit cards also have benefits and rewards, which BNPL doesn't have. But then on the credit card side, if you miss a payment, you pay interest on the entire amount and not just on the small amount of what you have defaulted. So there are pros and cons of this. Absolutely, Hriday. There is a great scope because of price sensitive market. Right. So, and remember, BNPL has been around for last 3, 4, 5 years already, right? Or maybe it has picked up more after during the pandemic time. So it's only, we can say it's about 3 years old. Cards have been around for such a long time, more than 30, 40 years now, right? So we are in that sense comparing apples and oranges, but it doesn't seem a bad start, right? So yes, BNPL definitely has a scope, definitely has. And as I mentioned, if you look at the data, even today, a large population is out of the scope of formal financing. They still have to rely on the informal financing where the rates can be as high as 50%, 60%. As compared to that, for them, even a 24% or 30% doesn't look bad. Right. So we are saying we're gradually moving someone from who is supposed to pay 60% per year to a 24, 30% per year kind of a number. Right. So in that sense, BNPL, because of its ease, has a great scope. Yes, Ashish. So as I said, credit card also have their benefits, but BNP, so obviously they are going to stack up. So you may have to figure out for buying a particular product what works best for you, right? And again, of the people out here, I'm sure not everyone has credit cards, right? But if you want to buy something on a website, how do you do it? So BNPL may not be a bad option. So what should we do? Simple. Credit discipline is the most important thing, right? As long as you are sure that taking loan, as I mentioned some time back also, taking loan is not bad, because as we said, you may want to buy a house worth, let's say 50 lakhs or a 1 crore or 2 crore, depending on which city you are. That's your dream house. Maybe you are you have been dreaming about it for a long time, and so on and so forth. Now, by the time you wait for that kind of money to come by, it will take maybe another 10, 20 years. So you don't want to wait till then, but you are very keen that you get it right away. So if you can check your affordability and you know you're getting into a job, and if you take a home loan and your EMIs are possible that you can pay them, please go ahead and take a loan and do it, right? But your credit discipline has to kick in there, right? So credit discipline is most important. Next, always plan the purchases. So especially people who are impulsive purchasers, right? So BNPL is hoping that there are people who buy things on impulse. They're going to give you a lot of offers, discounts, and so forth. Avoid being an impulsive purchaser. At least put some thought into buying, especially things which are slightly bigger ticket size. So plan your purchases. In fact, I don't know if you have heard of this. There is something called as an SNBL that has come by. As a competition to BNPL, now you have a movement which says, and there are startups which have come by, which is SNBL. And that's a competition to BNPL, because it says, save now, buy later. Right. So again, if you set some goals, these firms will help you achieve those goals. They are typically some platforms which will tell you where to put money, save the portion of future use. One benefit of these kind of startups is the fact that they also provide you discounts on these purchases. So similar to what we discussed in case of BNPL, where BNPL will channel these sales to particular platforms. What these guys do is, because you have saved for a particular goal, they will also encourage you by saying that if you save this, we'll offer you more discounts, or 10%, 20% discount. Absolutely. It acts like an RD in some sense. So instead of adding interest, we'll give you a discount. Right. But then if they have tie-ups with certain some particular merchants, you might get a very good deal, which you may not have got otherwise. Right. So there are ways that you can do. One way to plan your purchase is you plan it yourself, or if you want SMBL is another option that you can look at, think at, right? Right. So the most important thing is, are you living within your means? And I have slightly put another term as achievable means, right? Because often you say live within your means. You might just look at means as of today, but there could be a case where you know that you are going to, let's say, do an MBA, you're going, yeah, that is going to increase your salary and so on and so forth, right? So, or let's say you are already in a job and then you are going for some upskilling kind of a program, and that's going to give you a higher kind of a salary going forward. Maybe your means are going to change, but be sure that that incremental increase that you're going to see is actually going to happen, or you know that you're going to get a bonus in next 2 year. Bonus has been announced, it's just that another 2 months will get credited to you. So you know that it's coming, that bonus is coming, and then maybe you can take a 2 month BNPL kind of a loan, because right now you're having a very exciting offer. Go for it, right? So as long as you are within your achievable means or goals, plan your loan taking or purchases accordingly, right? So I think in terms of time, we are almost at that last point, and I'm also kind of done with the slides.
Thank you, sir. It was an absolutely amazing session. I think the students, with the number of questions, I think we can make out the enthusiasm that the students had for the session, and it was a great session. So once again, thank you so much, sir. This was a great session, and I'm sure our students have benefited a lot from it. It was great having you back, and it was great to know that you are an IMS alumni, and it is really nice hosting you.
Thank you. Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Thank you all, and have a great weekend.